It's been a year of controversies for the college admissions process, from the college cheating scheme that entangled wealthy financiers and Hollywood celebrities, to the Harvard affirmative action case, a case focused on whether Harvard's undergraduate admissions process discriminated against Asian Americans. A federal judge just recently ruled in favor of Harvard, saying race-conscious admissions is fair. But not only will the case likely be appealed, it also reignited a larger debate about what qualities colleges should prioritize.
The judge said that the Harvard admissions process is not perfect. It's not illegal, but it's not perfect. So what are the mechanisms that an elite school like Harvard can put in place to mitigate some of the concerns that were brought up in this case?
One of the things that a number of universities can do is take a closer look at who is making up these broader populations. And so I think in the Harvard case, we saw that there are still some access issues for very low income Asian American students and for particular, subgroups like Hmong students. I also think something that was raised was this question of implicit bias, particularly in the letters of recommendation and perhaps by alumni interviewers. So I think there is some training that needs to be done of admissions officers, teachers, the alumni interviewers to kind of recognize what biases they may be coming into the process with.
There was a study about Harvard admissions that found that 43% of white students were athletes, legacies, kids of faculty, or those whose relatives have made some sort of donation and they end up on the dean's list. What is your takeaway from that statistic?
Well, my immediate reaction was, I knew it was a high number. I think 43%. You're starting to nudge into 1 out of 2 white students at Harvard has benefited from some form of affirmative action themselves, right? And so it was hard for me not to think about some of the black and brown kids on that campus who get people kind of looking at them, do you belong here? And the certain privilege that white students have walking around those same campuses, no one ever doubts if those students belong there. But the data is telling us maybe we should kind of raise our eyebrows a little bit there as well.
What are the questions that universities are asking themselves while a case like Harvard is going on?
I think one of the things that's going to happen is a fair number of universities are going to take a look at this current ruling and take a look at the conversation going on about implicit biases. I think there's going to be a lot more admissions officers, whether new or old, being trained on what that might look like.
The Harvard class of 2021 was the first class in Harvard's 380-year history to be majority non-white. Does this constitute a step forward?
I think if we talk in terms of raw statistics, it reflects kind of the look of the United States and the way the demographic trends are going. So in that sense, I would see it as a positive sign. But going back to, we can't look at, these groups as kind of monoliths. If we break it down, well, who is comprising, the African-American students on campus? Who's comprising the Latinx students or the rural students, In this year of scandals, we've looked at colleges and universities as a whole. And I know that in the college cheating scandal, there have been certain individuals that have been held responsible. But as a former admissions officer yourself, how much do individual admissions officers have a role to play in this? Are they part of a larger system, or should they themselves individually be held accountable? Reading through the indictment, conversations with folks who were kind of close to it, many of them, in fact, spotted some of these discrepancies, but it was such a criminal enterprise. It went above and beyond just the reasonable standards with which, adults in university settings interact with each other. On one hand, a lot of these loopholes need to be closed, but, we could easily say that there's a scandal about the affordability of college, or, there's a scandal at the very low Pell rates that very wealthy universities have in terms of who's comprising their student body. And I think those are some of the things that, in addition to kind of the easy, glamorous closing of the loopholes, we've got to look at some of these larger problems that run kind of system-wide.
You talk to high schoolers all the time about college. When they read about the college admissions cheating scandal, when they are looking through and understanding the issues that are being brought up in the Harvard case, how are high schoolers feeling about all of this?
It's such a good question. I think it really depends on, where these students are approaching the process from. There are, for some students out there, the idea of college it's just transformative to their futures. And they're certainly viewing this process with a bit of dismay. You know, they're frustrated. It feels like the system is rigged in a lot of ways. And then you've got the students out there who, you know, college is something that's been talked about since they were, you know, in diapers. And in some sense, going to college is just part of the ritual of growing up.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.